All right, we are live. This is really cool. Hey, Dianna, how are you?
I'm great. Good morning, Maryann. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to, hang out with me this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Come on. I'm so
Well,
excited for our conversation.
I know this is going to be great. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in here, either live or on the replay. I'm excited to share this time with you and with Dionna Dorsey Calloway here. We're going to talk about how to align your values with your business. So, quick introductions. My name is Maryann Lombardi. I'm the founder and CEO of Maryann Lombardi Coaching. I help impact entrepreneurs clarify and simplify so they can take the bold action that is necessary to build a business they love and do it without all the noise. I'm
Mm.
also a single parent of the coolest teenager on the planet. Let's see what else. Oh, I think tacos should be their own food group. Wine is best when it's Spanish and when it's shared. And I am on a personal mission to help more women and non binary entrepreneurs launch and scale their business. That's what really gets me up in the morning and brings me joy. So, Dianna, could you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are and sort of what lights you up?
Sure. What lights me up? That's great. Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Dionna Dorsey Calloway. I am an entrepreneur, a creative entrepreneur to be specific. I have two businesses, Dionna Dorsey Design and District of Clothing. Dionna Dorsey Design is 12 years old as of January, and it is a creative boutique. I've been working primarily with organizations and businesses that I believe in sharing their missions, which is a awesome space to be in, and I think will contribute quite a bit to our conversation today. And District of Clothing is my online retail shop that once started as a side hustle and now is her very own living, breathing entity. And she is, I think she turned 7. She's 7 now, which is kind of
Nice.
amazing, right? Kind of wild. Time just keeps going. And we are a clothing line and a lifestyle brand that believe in encouraging progression, inspiring action, and supporting self love. We also believe in trying to keep things as local as possible. And, all of our apparel items are adorned with some sort of encouraging messaging on them somewhere. So it's usually hats, sweatshirts, t shirts, hoodies as well, and we'll hopefully be venturing out into some more items this coming spring and fall. Um, and they all have really positive, encouraging messages or messages that are somehow culturally relevant and create conversations. What lights me up? Um, I love being able to wake up and do what I love every day. I love being able to sew into other people. I love working to try to build community. I love my family. And I'm really blessed that I have the opportunity to be like a version of what my dreams were as a young girl.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love that idea of a version of what your dreams were, right?
Yeah.
Like, so did you dream of being an entrepreneur? Was that something that was sort of in that space for you as a young person?
I did not know that word,
Mm,
entrepreneur. I just knew that I wanted to be able to work from home like my dad did, and I wanted to be able to travel like my mom did.
mm.
And so, my mom, she's now since retired, but she was a flight attendant, and I love traveling and exploring. And I also love to color, and I wanted to color as a little girl. That, as I got older, turned into fashion. Probably from I think I was 8 or
Hmm.
9 when I first realized I wanted to be a fashion designer. And in my mind, that just meant like making really pretty dresses for the women in the gray movies that I watched growing up. Like my, you know, black and white movies I called gray as a kid because I'm like, it's not black and white, mom, it's gray.
Yeah.
And I also knew that I I wanted to color, I wanted to make these pretty dresses, and I wanted to be able to travel, and I wanted to also be able to help people, and it's all kind of coming together
Mm.
now here in my 40s, 30s and 40s.
Yeah. I love the fact that your businesses have been around some time, right? Like, was it 12 years and 7 years? I mean, that's an accomplishment. Like, that's a huge accomplishment. I don't think we talk about that enough because there's so much of this run, scale, jump, bounce, right? Like, but that sustainability of a business for that long, like, can we just take a second to say congratulations?
You're gonna make me tear up.
I mean, it's no
Thank
small feat.
you. Thank you. I am so grateful for, you know, whatever is here in me that has allowed me to continue moving forward. But I am equally and probably more grateful for all of my cheerleaders, for my family, for the board that I have in my head. And just even for people like you, Maryann, for so long you always provided opportunities for me, gave me space to be the creative person that I am, and to fail and to, get pick myself back up. And you did it with such like an open heart and so much grace. So I thank you for that. And even just for the opportunity to talk with you today, I was excited to reconnect. So
Oh, I
it's,
appreciate that. Thank you for saying that.
yeah. Yeah,
So
I can't believe it's been 12 years. That's kind of wild.
that's incredible. You know, when we think about values, right? We sort of assume we know what our values are, right? I think, because it's not something that we are actively talking about, but those values are these fundamental or core things that we believe are important to how we live and how we work that sort of guide our actions and our behaviors. And when you think about your own values, can you how present are they for you? And do you
Mhm.
know where they come from?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think they are 100% just like embedded in me, sort of the essence of myself. Um, And I would say that they initially I'm a very spiritual person, so I think initially for me they come from God and how I was raised and just being told as a young girl also and all through high school and college and even now, that it is important that we as people, but definitely as Black people, provide provide a service to our community, but also be of service to the community. And I think for the longest time I've been trying to figure out a way to like be more efficient with my time and and not um and just find a way to kind of pull it all together. And I think that sort of happened in the last 12 years or so, 15 years or so. When you're in college, it looks one way, volunteering or being of service or having a job, or things look one way when you're in college. And it looks quite different when you're in your 20s. And then when you're in your 30s, it looks different. And when you're in your 40s, for me, I just got married last year. So trying to learn how to manage my time while also be present with my values and live my values and share my values and hopefully be of service not just to my community but to the global community as a whole, but definitely to the local community. Try to find ways to be more efficient with that, and then also try to find ways to allow your values to continue to evolve and to grow, um, knowing now that I'm a different business person than I was. I mean, the pandemic changed everything, but like pre-pandemic and post-pandemic, things had to change. And with Dionna Dorsey Design, that business kind of tanked within the first month of March. Like every week, it kind of dropped another 25%. So there wasn't really an opportunity to do too much there other than to just have the mindset like when things come back, I'm going to come back to. And that was sort of what I focused on doing. I was able to be much more visible with my values and our mission with District of Clothing, and then also share that with others as well, by using the apparel, of course, by using social media, um, DMs as well, because there were so many people. Like, I don't like to say customers, I like to say our community members, but there were so many community members either sharing our messages or checking in if we didn't post for a couple of days. I think that when you are most transparent with your values and people feel that you are a belief driven business, they feel connected to you, they trust you, and they want to be a part of that community. It feels good to be a part of that community, to be around like-minded people who are pushing forward towards a similar goal.
Yeah, I do think to your point, it sort of shines through you know, in the work that's happening, as well as the individual that is at the helm of that at that work. You know, when it
Thank you.
comes to the apparel line, can you talk a little bit more about what some of those messages are and why they're important, and the impact that you have seen them having on your community?
For sure. The first one that comes to mind would be trust Black women. And I've had several people ask me, how did you come up with that? I by no means came up with trust Black women, but it was something that was just kind of always said. Um, I would hear it. I also grew up being raised by Black women, and 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 of course there were men as well, but they were also raised by those same Black women. So um, it's just kind of the essence of who I am. I am a human, and I am a Black woman, and I believe that we need to be trusted just as much as any other woman on this planet. And we, you know, I can't. My brain is a little foggy, like with the pandemic, in terms of just remembering timing. So I can't remember the release date, but it sort of met the moment
Mm.
during the pandemic. Um, we stopped posting our customers, our community, like wearing clothes anymore because it was such an awful time. People were losing their lives, and we just wanted to use our platform as a way to disseminate positive information, true information with regards to, if you can remember as early as March 2020, like hashtag flatten the curve and wash your hands. And um, it became much more of a meme account, I guess is what you'll say, for social media. But when things really started to get ugly from a social perspective during 2020, lots of our community started wearing their items again, and they might be out protesting, or they might be out um, working at a school, or they could have been doing some volunteering at various hospitals and so forth, and they were wearing our apparel. And it still just fills me up to see people um, believing the words, but also putting action behind the words, and then choosing to share it as well. The next one that sort of comes to me would be the dreamer doer, which that's the linchpin of District of Clothing. And that really is it's so important to me that we all be dreamers. First things first, like the American dream would not be a dream without dreamers. So we wholeheartedly believe in dreamers and love and support our dreamers. And then we also support um, our mindful dreamers, right? So folks who have dreams, who have visions, who have ideas and thoughts of things that they would like to do. I think that in order for you to be a doer, you first have to be a dreamer.
Mm.
And so we don't ever totally cross out dreamers, because that's part of who we are, and it started us on this task and journey to be able to be a doer. But it's sort of like a to-do list, right? So you first dream, and then you do, and then you just keep doing and keep doing, and hopefully you're continuing to dream as well. I feel like I just threw out a whole bunch of words, but I hope it makes sense.
No, it does make sense. You know, that's how I found out about your work, was from that T-shirt, right? Because at least being in DC, it's just everywhere, right? Like you see people walking down
Yeah.
the street wearing that shirt, right?
Yeah.
And there is something about the message that feels really good. And as somebody who's kind of action obsessed, that's kind of like my focus is always about, well, what's the action step? What are you doing? That I always love the shirt because it reminded me to don't skip the dream, right? Like don't
Yeah.
skip the dreaming part of it. Like action
Hmm.
is important and doing is necessary, but the doing is based on the dream, right? Like what
Yeah.
is the thing that you are doing for, because there
Right.
needs to be, a thing that you are doing whatever you're doing for. So,
Right, and it's important that we don't skip it, but that we also remember it, right? Because things will of course evolve, but it still is sort of like the base and the platform for everything else that we do.
yeah.
And then the other collection that I kind of want to remember, that I'm remembering, that I also want to share, would be the 51 collection, for just supporting statehood for Washington D.C. And that I love seeing that. My goal and my dream is to have that hat, like, as synonymous as like the W hat for the
Mhm.
Washington Nats, because it really just shows, the importance of like the people here in Washington D.C. We're not just we're not a swamp. We're not just, a small city. Like, we are a community of people who have been here for hundreds of years, and they should have the civil rights to vote. They should,
Yeah.
they we seeing people wear that hat, just, it really, even still, just fills me up.
Yeah. Do you ever find that in your process that your values and your business have ever bumped heads, right? Like trying to figure out how to marry those things in some way. Has that ever come up?
Yes, especially working in fashion, and especially having to deal with, like, the global supply chain is a real thing, and it is a real problem, and it is very problematic, and it's ongoing, and we don't know when it's going to change. I believe that what's best for humanity is what's best for business, but a lot of businesses believe, like, what's best for the bottom dollars, what's best for, or the, what do they call it, the bottom line is what's
Yeah.
best for business. um and, there are times when customers maybe want something at a certain price point, and in order for you to reach that price point, you have to do something that you wouldn't believe in. And oftentimes we have to say no to opportunities because, we believe in keeping humanity, at the center point of everything that we do. So
Is
yes, I won't get too specific, but and even just with, lawsuits, there's lots of lawsuits that come around where people, um, see someone's idea and they think it's a great idea, and they try to make it work for themselves too. And, IP is real. So whomever's listening or watching, make sure that you trust yourself, you trust your gut, make sure that you believe in what you're doing, and you also protect what you're doing. It's very important that you protect your IP.
Yeah, absolutely. For folks that may be watching who are potentially struggling with how to balance that, the value and the action of their business, are there any, tips or insight or advice that you can give folks to make sure that that you stay true to that value?
Yes, I would say the very first thing is to, identify the value, identify yourself. One of the, when we were talking about this before, one of the toughest parts of entrepreneurship is just being centered and being comfortable in your skin so that you feel, able to do all of the things that you're supposed to do and need to do. And, identifying, like, who you are, how you want to show up in this world, and how you want your business to show up in this world is equally important as well. I think, I think it's probably easiest for me to talk about where I am now versus maybe where I was 10 years ago. So, I come from a very privileged place to be able to say this. Again, I've been in business for quite some time now. But on Mondays, I start off with my Me Mondays. I have therapy every Monday at 10 a.m. And that's kind of, pre-pandemic, it was, museum Monday. So I was going to the museum to get, like, to fill my inspiration. Now, after I do my therapy, I might, browse online at some, uh, museums that I can't travel to, or hopefully will be able to travel to soon. Or I might watch something that's inspiring, or try to read something that's inspiring, just something so that I feel whole and centered. I'm vegetarian. I noticed that eating certain things was kind of would affect me, and I wouldn't be able to feel great the next day, or I might feel tired after eating, when when I needed to be working. Um, I no longer drink, liquor. I still drink my wine and my champagne, but, you know, if you're, again, this is pre-pandemic, but if you're at a happy hour and then you have to go to a dinner and then maybe you have to go to another meeting and then you have a 8 a.m. call and then you have a 12 p.m. meeting the next day, or like a lunch, like, I noticed after like 29, 30, I just could not, I couldn't drink a vodka tonic, or I don't even remember what I used to drink, but I'm just coming up with one of those drinks. And I couldn't feel good and operate as my best self the next day, which would not allow me to focus on my values and keep my business mission aligned. I am very conscious of the people that I work with and the organizations and teams that I work with. Um, you know, you're never going to find Dionna Dorsey Design doing something with Breitbart, or uh, I can't even think of anyone else, but when new organizations come to me, I do due diligence to make sure that I feel very comfortable with whomever might be working there, some of the work that they've done in the past. I always try to get a referral for some of the work that they've done as well, just to make sure that I feel comfortable with whom I'm working with. Um, and then I just try to, in my personal life, like lead with purpose and intention. And I believe in taking naps and resting. Uh, You know, I think I was definitely raised with this like work hustle culture mentality. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and that's just kind of always what I've seen. And we would take holidays, but it wasn't. It was more like to get all the family together, right? So it wasn't like it was just maybe like sometime in the spring and sometime in the fall, or summer, excuse me. Now I'm a lot more intentional with making sure that I take time away, especially as a creative person, because I believe personally that creatives feel the highs and the lows a little bit more intensely, and that is sort of our superpower, which allows us to do the creative work that we need to do, but it also allows us to feel things differently, I believe. And so I'm just very intentional with taking my naps. I'm very intentional with having my me Mondays. I'm very intentional with having all of my calendar set up in a way that's beneficial for me so that I can produce the best output. So, especially during the pandemic, I'm only getting dressed twice a week. Any other day, I got dressed for you, Maryann, but I have a couple of more meetings today. I scheduled everything so that today's Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I'll have, most of my on camera calls today, and then I'll also do them again on Friday. But that way I didn't have to get dressed yesterday, and I don't have to get dressed on Wednesday and Thursday. And that's an hour of time that I can like either focus on my work or myself or on my family. And uh it just feels like it's something that I'm doing for me. It allows me to have more time and space to kind of focus on doing the work with intention and with purpose.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we talked about this before. I always feel like it's hard to know what you want to do and how to do it if you don't know who you are and what you need.
Mhm.
Right. And often we skip over the who we are because it's actually real work, right? Like it's real work to take time to understand ourselves, and it doesn't
Mhm.
actually end no matter what age you are. If you are endlessly curious about who you are in the world, then and interested in self-reflection, then it's a journey, right? Like it's a constant
Mhm.
process of understanding yourself and figuring out what you need. And often when you don't know what you need, at least what I see is that there's a disconnect between the work of the business and you keep fighting with the business to figure out why it's not working, but often you'll find it's not working because there's an alignment off
Yeah, it's
between,
misaligned. Mhm.
yeah, of who you are and what you want and what you need and how that business is serving the life that you want to lead. So it
Eh,
sounds like you have a really strong anchor in understanding what you need and what that life
mhm.
is.
And then I think it's also equally important to understand like how much that evolves, right? As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, because this world is changing so very quickly, and it's okay to like take time away. I believe in moving forward. I also believe in taking steps back, and I'm very supportive of being still as often as we need to be. Um, but as the last 2 years have shown us, like you don't know what's coming next, but you want to make sure that you're strong and that you are centered on where you are, so that as things keep moving and evolving, you're able to move and evolve with it. And also understanding, especially when you're providing a service or a product to a community base, these people, they come to depend on you, and they come to um, almost need you in a sense, right? And it's not about the t-shirts, and it's not about Dionna Dorsey Calloway. It's about the community. It's about the opportunity to connect with people. So for a year, well, at least here in DC, for like pretty much a strong year, everyone was inside of their house, but we all had these little phones, and through Instagram, through Facebook, through Twitter, and through LinkedIn, folks in the District of district of clothing community were able to connect. And that was, that was a very beautiful thing. They didn't need me, but the platform was helpful during the time. And I was helpful. I was glad that we were able to provide some sort of either, initially it was resources based on whatever the CDC was saying, and then it led to like just a moment of laughter while we were dealing with such heaviness. How come there's only one person in my apartment and I have 5 loads of laundry? Like, and then it's like, okay, well, this is happening in my house, it's happening in yours too. And that kind of built community as well. So, and helping people to feel a lot less alone.
Yeah. Well, and I can imagine during those times when you have a business or a mission that is really solid, the ability to be agile within those times is much easier because you're not necessarily searching for what you should do, right? Like you know who you are, and then you just figure out how you want to communicate, as things are changing. But I think a lot of times when people aren't aligned with their purpose and their mission, right, that it gets harder when that change happens because they just have a harder time pivoting because they don't exactly
Right.
know what the why of what they're doing.
And for me personally, I I need to be busy. I like to work. I like to communicate with folks. I need to create, and I like to meet my I like to meet my goals, and hopefully surpass them. And when I was sort of in the house, like during March 2020, I didn't know what to do, and I needed to be productive to like find some peace in the midst of the chaos. And it was a different type of purpose that I didn't know I needed because obviously we didn't know the pandemic was coming. Um, so yes, that pivot was so important because 2020 was actually District of Clothing's most profitable, most successful year financially.
Mm.
And even from a press perspective, it sort of blew my mind. It still blows my mind thinking about it. Like how the old saying goes, like, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I think
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, with being agile and being very much aware of yourself and what you're able to do, and being in a mind state that allows you to like be active through your values.
Yeah. Well, and I talk a lot about noise because I feel like there's so much noise that comes in, right? That we
Hmm.
either is coming from the outside or it's noise we create ourselves when we
Hmm.
don't actually aren't centered into what those values are, what we want or what we need or where we're going, And so
Hmm.
I think that's part of the challenge is making sure that we can limit that noise and be very
Hmm.
clear in those values.
Yep.
Before we head out, is there any sort of last sort of bit of sort of a nugget that we can leave folks who may be trying to find that center a little bit more solidly?
Yeah, I would say, Maryann calls it noise. I call it distractions. Like whatever you can do to try to, quell those distractions as much as possible. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it's not, what you want to do, but it might be what you need to do. Um, Try to make a list of those distractions and cross them off as much as you can. And I think it's really very important that we just trust ourselves, that we believe that, you have everything you need within you to do what's come to you. I believe if it's come to you, it's come to you because you have the ability to bring it to fruition. Um, and I also think that, quite possibly the world probably needs what's in your head and in your heart. So if you can make those two things match and just believe in the significance of small steps, it's not, Maryann can tell you, like, I did not get here overnight. It's a lot of hard work. Find your people, um, find your people, find your people, find your people,
Mm.
and they will, sow into them and they'll sow back into you too. So I
Yeah,
think,
I love that. That's so helpful. The only thing I would add is that it takes the time it takes. So therefore take the time,
woo,
right?
woo, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
You're preaching. Yeah. That's
So
true.
yeah,
That's so true. Yeah,
yeah.
nothing is overnight. And, social media is such a wonderful, powerful tool, but it's also, are not it can oftentimes not be a truthful depiction of what's really happening.
Yeah.
So don't ever be dismayed or feel, you know, lowly on yourself based on what you're seeing.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I would be happy if I didn't see another entrepreneur walking on a beach telling me how simple and easy it is if you just have XYZ funnel, right? Like, oh, come on. You know, it's harder and it takes more work, but it's so meaningful and it's so valuable.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so anyway,
Yeah.
I love the
And
work.
also,
I'm happy.
I yes, I love to do the work. I was gonna say, I mean, pre-pandemic, I don't even know when I last took a holiday. So
Yeah.
we'll see. I still haven't had a honeymoon, but we'll see.
Oh, well, you gotta, that's gotta be coming, right? I
I
hope
hope
you
so. Now
get some
that these
time.
numbers are down. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
Good. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a couple minutes and share a little bit about your story and your journey. And we can't wait to see what happens next.
Thank you, Maryann. I really appreciate it. Congratulations to you on everything that you're doing. This is awesome.
Thank you so much. All right. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.